There, this is Jill Barnett Kaufman, and today's video I am talking about hiring the right team when you're going through divorce. And the reason why you need to hire the right team is because it's so important, all the decisions that you're going to be making in your divorce, and you want to make sure that you make them logically, not with emotions. And too often, when you don't have the right team, when you're making decisions on your own, you're going to let your emotions dictate what decisions you make, and you don't want that to happen. So hiring the right team to support you is so important. So the first person I would say to hire, of course, because I am a divorce coach, is a divorce coach. But it's really important because that divorce coach can help you structure the steps that you're going to take in your divorce. So you will get a plan, a step-by-step plan that you're going to develop with your divorce coach on how to proceed in your divorce. So you hire a divorce coach, you come up with a plan, you determine your priorities, and that will help you not be as emotional when you're going to make decisions. The next person that you should hire, the next person on your team, I would say would be to meet with a financial advisor. And it could be someone you're already working with, or you could be someone you're interested in working with. It could be a CDFA, which is the Certified Financial Divorce Analyst. Certified Divorce Financial Analyst. And that is someone who is trained to work with people in divorce. But any financial advisor will help you look through your finances and give you an idea of what is important for you to have in your divorce, whether it's, the marital home, whether it's alimony, child support, different various assets. They will go through that with you. And a lot of times they will do it for free. And it will give you some education on what's important in your finances. It's really, really important to know what you have and to talk to a professional about it because they've done this over and over again. They can help you put together a budget and see what you really need to live on. So that's a financial advisor, a divorce coach, a financial advisor, and the third is an attorney. But what I would not do is run out and give an attorney a retainer. A lot of attorneys will require a retainer to work with them. But many, many attorneys will allow you to meet with them one-on-one, and for an hour, you pay their hourly fee, and you can ask a ton of questions. So for example, I'm in New Jersey. I know a lot of the laws in New Jersey, but I don't know, a divorce coach is not going to know the laws in other states. Plus, they're not lawyers, so they don't have answers to all these little questions that you might have. So it's really helpful to set up a meeting for an hour with an attorney, and a lot of attorneys will do that. So before you bring the attorney really on your team, you meet with them and you have a conversation about all your questions and you get some of those answered. So then you have this basic team now, the divorce coach, a financial advisor, and an attorney. You can decide to give an attorney a retainer, but I'll get into that later. So then the next step is the process of the divorce. And so if you are able to go through mediation, you can hire a mediator. And that person is going to be an impartial third party to sit with you and your ex and to go through everything about the divorce. If you can go that way and not hire an attorney, and given a retainer, that is the least expensive way to do your divorce. Because, it's obviously least expensive to do it yourself. But other than doing it yourself, which very few people can do because it is complicated, hiring a mediator and the two of you sitting with a mediator and working through all of these issues is one of the least expensive ways to do this. You can have your attorney there on the side, not with you, but so you can talk to after your mediation or before your mediation to make sure that you know the questions to ask and the information that you need for your mediation. But you don't need to hire an attorney and give them a retainer in order to do that. Some of them will require a retainer just to even be a consultant on the side. But So, so if you can get your ex to agree to mediation, the first session in mediation is where you sit down and you just discuss, some of the issues that you need to agree on. And the mediator's job is to explain the whole process to you. So you don't have to know the whole process when you first go into that mediation session. It's a first session where they're explaining everything and you start talking about all the different things that you have to come to agreement on. So you've got your divorce coach, your financial advisor, your attorney, who hopefully you don't have to give a retainer to, you may. And then the fourth is the mediator. So that mediator is not really part of your team. It's part of the whole, the team of you and your ex. The mediator is not on your team, but the mediator is there to help you work through your settlement. So if you have this team together, that's really helpful when you're going through this, because anytime you have a question, you know who to ask. Like, you won't call your attorney when you have an emotional question, and you won't call your divorce coach when you have a legal question. So you know who to call. And I was talking with an attorney the other day who, his fee is $600 an hour. Now, your divorce coach is going to be a lot less than that. And you will be able to minimize the time you spend with your attorney by spending more time with your divorce coach. And that's how hiring a team can actually save you money. You think it's putting out money in the beginning, but it isn't, because, it is putting out money, but it isn't as much as how you would put out money if you just have your attorney who is handling all of your questions. And, even if your attorney's only $350 or $300 an hour, it's still more than a divorce coach. And so you really want to make sure that you're using each of your professionals in the capacity that they're supposed to be used in. And your divorce coach is really kind of your go-to person, and can help you make sure that you spend the least amount of money possible. And so you're spending money to save money. And that might not make sense to most people, but it really does work. So hiring your team is just the first step in what you have to do. The next step is, making sure that you are able to clearly think through all of the issues that you need to do. So, what are your priorities? I have a divorce priorities tool that I have clients work through, and you can decide what it is that's important to you, and put those things as your priorities, as what you're going to fight for. And then you can find out what it is that you don't need. And those are the things that you can give up and bargain for. For example, if it's really important that you stay in your marital home, you can give up some alimony or some other asset in order to do that. So if you know that that's important to you, you can make that happen. What I tell clients is that really so important? Is it so important that you stay in that marital home that you give up X, Y, and Z? And you really have to make that decision, because maybe you're connected to it on an emotional level, but is it really that much of a priority for you? Or can you, bend that idea, bend that inflexibility, see if that can get you to where you want. If you do give up the marital home, what else do you get? Maybe alimony, maybe, some other thing is more important, like the children's schedule. Maybe that's important. So really think about it, think through your priorities, and think what it is that you really, really can't live without, and fight for those things. When I say fight, I mean negotiate. So the other thing that you want to do after you work through your priorities is to gather documents. You really want to make sure that you have all of your documents, and that includes bank statements, tax forms, W-2s, any kind of leases on cars, or if you have market value of different assets, um, life insurance, wills, all those things, every document on all personal valuables, if it's jewelry or a stamp collection, or if it's silverware, artwork, whatever it is that you have, you can take pictures, and you can get the physical documents. And those things will all help you become organized with your divorce coach and your financial advisor and your attorney. And so, gathering all the documents takes a lot of time. You can, print things out online. You can go to the bank. You can get these things, but get them in paper. It's really worthwhile, because then you can sit and plan your what you need in terms of going forward. One thing that people don't realize is that everything can be negotiated. And the reason why I think it's important to talk about this is because, if you have an agreement with your ex and have an uncontested divorce, you can really agree to anything. So you can waive child support, you can waive alimony, you can agree that one spouse gets the entire marital home. You can, without having to pay off the other. Everything is negotiable. This is only true if you don't go to court. If you go to court, the judge gets to make the decision, so you don't get any decision. But assuming that that's not your goal, you and your spouse can sit down with the mediator and negotiate any solution to the agreement, any agreement that you want. So I highly recommend clients do this, because you want to have the ultimate control. You want to be the one to make that final decision. And so in addition, you don't have to pay a ton of attorney's fees when you go to court, like when you go to court. So, so I really, really encourage people to be creative. And one way to be creative is to look at it as a big pie. Okay. Part of it is alimony. Part of it is child support. Part of it is marital assets. Part of it is retirement assets, and whatever other assets and liabilities that you have. So if you, for some reason, really want to keep your retirement assets, you can negotiate away other things. And it goes like that. So whatever you decide that you really want, your priorities, that's what you don't negotiate away, but you have to give up something. So, you have to say, okay, I will give up, I'll lower my alimony, or I'll increase alimony, and the other thing about alimony, so there's alimony, child support, marital home, retirement assets. Those are like the main things that you're talking about. There could be pensions, which is part of retirement assets, or lots of other assets. But let's talk about alimony first. So alimony is something that is dependent upon the length of the marriage, and if there are children involved, and depending upon the state, each state has different laws. So let's say it was a long-term marriage. Usually they say that's over 20 years, over 15 years, something like that. And there were children in the marriage. So usually that's an alimony. And then there's a significant difference in the two incomes. That's usually a case for alimony. But when you do have alimony, it can be, some people say it's half the length of the marriage. Other places have different, other places have permanent alimony. That's going away in most states. But you have to find out what it is in your state. But you don't get automatically any number for the alimony. So you can negotiate, okay, it's going to be, let's have a round number, $2,000 a month. But that's only going to be for 3 years. And then it's going to go down to $1,000 a month for the next 3 years. So you can have a step down, for the person to get on their feet in the beginning, and then it steps down. Or you can say that if the person's salary goes up to a certain amount, or they inherit some kind of asset, then alimony goes away. So you can put anything in the agreement that you want, that you both agree to. And that's why getting creative is so powerful, because it's not just about, are you giving alimony or aren't you? It's about, how the alimony is going to be given. And if you figure it out, so let's say the amount is $2,000 a month times 12 months, so that's $24,000 a year times 3 years. That's $72,000, right? So $72,000 for the first 3 years, and then it's $1,000 a month for the next. So it's $12,000 per year times 3 years, and that's $36,000. So the example I just outlined, where it was $2,000 for the first 3 years and then $1,000 for the next 3 years, is a total of $108,000. So it's $108,000 that one party is paying the other over 6 years. Now that has a value. The present value of that $108,000 is going to be less than what it would be if you get it over time. So let's say that $108,000 over 6 years, you wanted to pay upfront, or you wanted to receive upfront. You would factor in the time value of money, and you would pay or receive a lesser amount. And that is a negotiable amount. So let's say it was $90,000, and somebody could say, well, no, I won't do it for 90, I'll do it for 95. So, or I'll do it for 80, So that's a negotiation. So you can pay alimony as a lump sum up front, and then you can pay or receive a lesser amount, but you get that money up front. So that's another option with alimony, where you don't have to have it as you pay it monthly. Most people do, because they may not have that money up front, but you always have that option to negotiate that it's an upfront amount. So this is an example of another way you can be creative with all of these things. Okay, so alimony. Child support is something that is less negotiated. It's usually an amount that you put into a child support calculator, and each state has their own way of calculating it. What you do is you take the income for each of the people, each of the parties, you input the percent of parenting time that they have. So if it's 60-40, 50-50, whatever it is. And the way you calculate parenting time is by overnights. So the number of overnights that you have your children is the percentage of parenting time. So you put that percentage into the child support calculator, and then you have to add in the cost for medical. So if one of the parents is paying their medical expenses for the children, that is factored into the child support calculation. So when you hear that somebody wants 50% custody because they don't want to pay as much in child support, that's why they don't. They know that the child support is tied to the custody, but that is not a good reason to have 50% custody. You really have to want to be a 50% parent if you have 50% custody, not just for the child support calculation. Because the bottom line is you want the best thing for your children. And if you're traveling and you have to get babysitters, and you can't be there for your child and the other parent can, you shouldn't get 50% custody. You should do what's best for the children. So that's about child support. And then the marital home, if one of the parties stays in the marital home, the other party will have to get bought out. So you would have to have enough assets to buy that person out. You can agree to do it over time, but usually the person who's leaving the marital home needs some of that cash to buy their own house. So that's a factor to consider. And then the other piece of this is retirement assets. And retirement assets are interesting because you cannot access them now. So they're not really valuable right now, but they are valuable in your lives. So it is something that some people really fight for. But typically retirement assets are split 50-50 if they're earned during the course of the marriage. So if you have to subtract, if they're commingled with anything prior to the marriage, they may not be able to be taken out. Sometimes you can do that. If, let's say, you put in $20,000 when you were married and it's grown to, $60,000 or whatever, you can make an agreement that $20,000 will stay because they were premarital and $40,000 will be split 50-50. But again, you can agree on anything. So if you think that that's important, your retirement assets are important, then you can agree to that and give up more, money from one of the other buckets. So you just really have to remember that this is a pie and that everything has value in that pie. So you have to decide which part of that pie is important and which part are you willing to give up. Okay, I hope this was helpful in your divorce planning, and you can contact me at divorcecoachjill@gmail.com and check out my website. There's more information there at www.divorcecoachjill.com.